We kick off with Kirk announcing that they're visiting the Federation's own Arkham Asylum, the last place that exists to house their criminally insane.
We are bringing a revolutionary new medicine to them, a medicine with which the Federation hopes to eliminate mental illness for all time.
Okay. Well, that's like suggesting you've got a pill that can cure both watery eyes and blindness, but we'll assume from context that it's here to treat people with homicidal tendencies. That's still broad, but more acceptable than this Omni pill that you've cooked up for the plot. They meet with the governor of the place, built on a planet with a poisoned atmosphere, which you can see just outside of the window. That's nice. Always wanted to have a nice view of a toxic wasteland, though admittedly it's spoiled not sitting on a throne made of skulls. The governor's uniform insignia, by the way, is absolutely hilarious. Someone went way overboard with this. A hand and a white bird and a sun. Somebody was getting paid by the stitch. Besides, in most shots, it just looks like an invisible man with a white glove is fondling the guy's left man boob. The latest inmate is none other than a former Starfleet captain, the great Garth of Izar. Yes, nothing spells terrifying menace like the name Garth.
This year Garth finally got pubes.
Kirk always admired Garth and asks to see him, being stopped on the way by an Orion woman who insists that the governor isn't who he says he is. But we move on. These are all the worst of the worst here. We got Marta forging Van Goghs, Zielbeck, he's in for pimping, Droznek impersonating a wheelbarrow without a license. They're all locked away here to protect the Federation from the threat they represent. And now amongst their number is Garth. Only we discover that the governor is in Garth's cell. Yes, the one that we met is actually Garth in disguise, and during the titles, he has Spock knocked out and dragged off, while Kirk is shoved into the cell with the real governor. To say Garth has delusions of grandeur would be an understatement.
You will address me by my proper title, Kirk.
I'm sorry, I should have said Captain Garth.
I am Lord Garth, formerly of Izar, and I lead the future masters of the universe.
The only thing that makes his over-the-top antics all the more wonderful is the fact that Marta there is Batgirl from the Adam West show. And there's a reason I brought up Arkham at the beginning, because this episode feels a great deal like we've been dumped into the middle of an episode of 60s Batman. Garth here just needs to have the right stupid hat to serve as our main villain and be perfect. He needs like a chef hat that's made out of fur, or a black Spanish hat with smoke bombs dangling from the rims. Garth wants Kirk to assist him in taking over the Enterprise, but Kirk warns that his crew, like Garth's last crew, will mutiny. So Garth transforms into a copy of Kirk himself. And you know what that means. It means we have a villain that is already over the top, now being performed by William Shatner. You might need eye protection for this. Kirk asks the governor what's up, and the guy explains that the technique Garth learned that could heal his body, he has now figured out how to use to become a shapeshifter. Sure. With this in a mind that, however skewed it might be at the moment, is a genius in Kirk's view, Garth is a real problem, especially since he's trying to assume command of the Enterprise. But Scotty replies to his message with a chess move, which Garth does not know the response to. Seems that Kirk figured that there might be some problem down here and took the precaution, trapping Garth here. Let's observe the nuanced acting of William Shatner in action.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
You may not know this, but William Shatner has never won a Screen Actors Guild award, and no one is surprised. I mean, sure, he was nominated, but so what? Hayden Christensen was nominated once, too. That doesn't really mean anything. Scotty's wondering what the hell that was all about. Kirk said, "No, I'm just testing you," but Scotty finds that a bit hard to swallow, and when they don't answer his hail, he's ready to send an armed security team down there to ask in person. But the force field prevents them from beaming through. They could try blasting their way through, but the power required would wind up killing everybody inside the colony, which, would kind of defeat the purpose of a rescue operation. Not that things are going well at the moment.
Why can't I blow off just one of his ears?
Yeah, she wasn't forging Van Gogh paintings, just forging Van Goghs. Garth has Spock here because he's bringing him and Kirk to dinner to get the countersign out of him, as well as to engage in their wild criminal debauchery. Disgraceful. Think of all the licensed wheelbarrow impersonators you were ripping off at this very moment. You wouldn't steal a car, would you? Things get tense because Marta starts coming on to Kirk, which Garth doesn't like, but at the same time, he can't admit to jealousy because that would imply weakness. She is exasperating, an incredibly brazen liar. Like when Garth insists that she prove her poetic skills, she's clamoring all about how she's a great poet and all that, so he calls her out, and then she claims credit for Shakespeare.
It was written by an Earthman named Shakespeare a long time ago.
Which does not alter the fact that I wrote it again yesterday.
That's a novel approach to plagiarism. It's one step above claiming to be a time traveler and Shakespeare ripped you off. Garth is exasperated, but finally gets it under control by ordering Marta to dance, the one thing besides lying that she's actually good at.
But I am not an insect. I am master of the universe.
And so I wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and get real high and loud. Straight to the top of my lungs. What's going on? And I say, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I say, what's going on?
After that little performance, Garth talks about being friends with Kirk and Spock as a fellow officer. Essentially, he is to Kirk what Kirk is to later generations. He's a legend of another era. It's interesting to see this madman against Kirk in this context, then. It's got all kinds of possibilities. I mean, think about a movie where Kirk would come across some former Federation combat legend who now has body-changing powers and had somehow become a madman, trapping them on some wasteland planet to begin launching a campaign of destruction against the very Federation that he served. And no, that never worked. Forget I said anything. The tipping point for Garth was an incident where he was left broken and dying, but these aliens brought him back to full health, the technique that he's now used to figure out how to shapeshift. In gratitude for this, he offered the aliens great power, but they refused. So he offered them the consolation prize of ordering his crew to annihilate them all. He doesn't like to take no for an answer. The crew mutinied, a miscalculation that he admits. He didn't think that his crew would refuse to perform genocide against a group of pacifists. Lesson learned there.
I agree there was a time when war was necessary, and you were our greatest warrior. I studied your victory at Axanar when I was a cadet. In fact, it still required reading at the academy.
Yes, whatever might have happened to Garth since, no one will ever associate controversy with the name Axanar. Kirk says that the creation of the Federation was a good thing, making him and Spock brothers, a sentiment that Spock shares, much to Garth's surprise. But then Spock isn't inclined, like Kirk, to make allowances for Garth's self-delusions. So, while he allows the guy to call himself Lord, there's no harm in that, Spock nevertheless refuses to admit that Garth was mistreated in any way. So Garth, to prove how not crazy he is, screams for Spock to be taken away and pulls a phaser on Kirk. But he can't really shoot Kirk. He needs that countersign for the chess problem. But no matter what Garth says or offers, Kirk refuses. So, of course, now it's time for the torture. Garth has converted this treatment chair into a portable agony booth, and he shoves the governor in to demonstrate this. No, really, it's just to demonstrate. Even when Kirk objects, it's no, tell me and I'll stop stuff. No, he just keeps right on monologuing there, letting the guy sit in the chair until he's finished beta testing it, I guess, and then orders Kirk to get put into it. Naturally, there's only one question that Garth wants the answer to.
You didn't tell him about my pubes, did you?
Marta has been trying to intervene, much to Garth's repeated annoyance, but perhaps there's an opportunity here.
Listen to me, my Lord Garth. I can get him to tell me what you want to know.
Might be interesting to have you try.
Sensor readings. The force field is weakest on the far side of the planet. We can't send down a shuttlecraft carrying a team in environmental suits.
That sounds good. They can just jog their way to the other side of the planet and knock on the door. That's a perfect plan. Even Bones can see through this, and Scotty agrees it's not a good plan. They're just going to have to wait for Kirk to get that shield down. Right now, Marta is working on seducing Kirk.
You do see that, don't you? Soon your friend Spock will be here, and then...
Spock.
At least I've arranged that much.
Spock and I haven't done a threesome together since Risa. Well, that's not happening. She pulls a knife out from under the pillow and tries to murder Kirk. But, it's her way. Kirk throws her off and Spock arrives just in time for the nerve pinch, leaving them free to head to the control room to lower the force field. Kirk calls Scotty to find everything is ready with the support troops, but Spock suggests that, under the circumstances, the place for the captain is really on the bridge, and dealing with the lunatics who've taken over the asylum should be led by himself on the ground. Kirk seems to be all right with this, so Spock passes the order along, but Spock doesn't give the countersign. He waits for Kirk to do it. Kirk tells Spock to do it instead. He's got enough to do around here, But Spock can't. He's Garth in disguise, a trick to get Kirk to give up the countersign. And pretty clever, too. He may be nuttier than a nutrageous bar, but he's not dumb. You might say, well, really, why else would Spock show up armed? But with as clearly as goofy as they are, it's no surprise that some of Garth's guards could have been talked into doing exactly that by Marta, just like she said. There's a reason criminally insane isn't a checkbox on qualifications for guards. Only taxi drivers. Kirk tries reasoning with Garth again, and while I have given Shatner crap, this he delivers wonderfully. You start to see this from a different point of view. Not that Garth is the enemy of the weak, but that seeing Garth like this is like seeing a childhood hero, a great man or woman who has inspired you, whose influence made you who you are today. A person who is now the victim of a cruel fate that's temporarily robbed them of that greatness. And you just know, that it's still in there looking for a way out. And Kirk is desperately hoping that he can do just that. Since he gets shot, obviously he's failed.
Perhaps you'd like a larger role in the ceremony. You could serve as human sacrifice, for example.
No, I wouldn't enjoy that at all.
Yeah, Kirk hates coronations. How about a nice bris? Garth is insistent, and when Marta shows up with the crown...
I hereby proclaim that I am Lord Garth, Master of the Universe.
You keep saying that, it's just the universe just doesn't want to bother to notice, huh? Oh, and I can't help but notice that Lord seems like kind of a lowly title for the Master of the Universe to take. Shouldn't you be like Ultra Emperor or something like that? Otherwise, it's like calling the chairman of the board of Gerber Chief Bottle Washer. Garth then proves that he's not operating on all cylinders.
Well, Captain, even you must admit that I'm a genius.
We've all heard the idea that madness and genius often go hand in hand, and yet I still can't recall any scientific breakthrough where 5 guys dressed as Napoleon claimed credit.
What you see here is my latest invention. This is an explosive. The most powerful one in history. If I were to drop this flask, the resulting explosion would vaporize this planet.
Yeah, you would have to invent an entirely new branch of physics to create something with greater energy yield than pure energy, using only what you found lying around in a prison for the criminally insane. Given that, or you're just a nut, I'm going to go with number 2, given that you have actually been proven to be a nut, and further emphasized by wearing a tinfoil crown. To add a few underlines and an exclamation point on the end of that, he has Marta dragged out of the dome and into the poison atmosphere. The necklace that he gave her contains a single grain of his new planet killer in a can. Well, that doesn't prove anything, other than that you can make a teeny tiny suicide vest, but not that you can blow up a whole planet, Lord High Bottle Washer. But he's trying to lord over Kirk, and he figures now would be a good time to use Spock for that. So he sends 2 of his chief hoodlums to screw that up. I mean, what else do you expect them to do? They're henchmen. Yep, a double Vulcan nerve pinch later, and Spock has the run of the place again. Garth quickly transforms into Kirk's double once he's spotted Spock, leading to the old which is the changeling problem. Spock's questioning doesn't work because Garth is every bit the captain that Kirk is and knows what Kirk would say in answer, even to the question of specific battle maneuvers. So there's only one way to settle this. Fight it out. After the fight is finished, one Kirk is clearly victorious. Obviously, that's how you know the fight is finished. And insisting that Spock shoot the other one, while the vanquished Kirk is telling Spock to shoot both of them in order to protect the Enterprise. Spock thus shoots the victor, with the reasoning that that's the kind of thing Kirk would say, and also, after all they've been through, Kirk likely would get his butt kicked by Garth in any fight. With that, they can bring down the guards to restore order and a new batch of the medicine in order to treat the inmates, and Garth seems unaware of any of the things that happened before. Much more the man that Kirk read about than the madman that we've been watching this whole time. All we need is to avoid somebody smashing a vase over his head or something like that, and Garth should be on the road to recovery. Post-episode follow-up? Annoying character goes to Marta, although there's not a whole lot of competition, so it just kind of falls to her as the only one who makes any movement in that direction. Final score for Whom Gods Destroy is 6 out of 10. It's not one of the classics, and its similarity to Dagger of the Mind doesn't help it, but I can't help but enjoy it. Garth, for all his over-the-top behavior, is a credible menace. He's a colorful figure and an interesting foil for Kirk, given Garth's personal history and Kirk's admiration of what he had done. There's enough cleverness to the story that we can overlook some of the plot conveniences here. Like, why did Kirk just happen to pick this mission when he gets duplicated to come up with a passcode to thwart being duplicated, but then never uses that again? And I like that we see the Enterprise trying to help, even if they're ultimately helpless. Good to know that they're at least trying and not sitting around picking their noses, waiting for the captain to save the day. But still, while this is something of a guilty pleasure, there's a lot stronger TOS out there, and Marta's dancing and pointless murder were both things I really could have done without. But still, I enjoyed it. And since we're on the topic of having a double, next time, Riker comes face to face with his own in Second Chances. Same bat time, same bat channel.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
I am the most beautiful woman on this planet.
You're the only woman on this planet, you stupid cow.